There's absolutely nothing that angers a fan base quicker than changing the design of a beloved character. You get used to seeing your favorite character one way, and then without warning, they pop up looking completely different. It can be jarring. Over the years, we've seen some updates that sent the internet into an absolute frenzy. This is the story behind some of the most controversial character design changes of all time. Welcome to Animation Hustle, the place where we dive into the funny and untold stories behind your favorite animated movies and TV shows. To kick things off, let's go all the way back to 2009. Back then, Disney fans had been waiting over a decade for a brand new, hand-drawn Disney princess. After Mulan, they switched to the CGI style for the next Disney princess when they released Tangled. And for a while, everyone thought they would never get another princess in the old, iconic style ever again. Even though CGI is great, there's just something special about 2D. And Disney animation legend Floyd Norman says it best.
Even though the computer can do marvelous things, I still prefer the sensibility of hand-drawn animation because I just love that special sensibility that comes from drawings. Cartoon characters that are drawn by hand, using a pencil, using paper. That's animation.
So when Princess and the Frog came out, it was actually a huge deal because not only was it drawn in the old style, but it also introduced Disney's first black princess, Tiana. For many kids and families, it was the first time seeing someone who looked like them as a Disney princess. And her design, which was inspired a lot by her voice actress, instantly became iconic. Fast forward to 2018 when Disney was promoting Wreck-It Ralph 2. They started releasing images of Tiana alongside the other Disney princesses, but something seemed kinda off. Fans called out how her skin appeared to be lighter, her nose was skinnier, and what happened to her hair. Tweets were made of people expressing their disappointment in the changes they made. Others online thought everyone was overreacting and the changes were just a byproduct of turning them from 2D to CGI. Tiana was so important to so many people, and these small changes might seem insignificant, but they actually had deeper consequences. These intentionally subtle details are what make the character feel authentic. So to alter Tiana, it made it feel like they were trying to erase her blackness. While showing the differences between Ariel and Pocahontas, Glen Keane breaks this down perfectly.
So here you can see Ariel in very rough, kind of a quick sketch. Now, Pocahontas, as an ethnic person, somebody whose design should be very different than the Caucasian kind of a look, just about in every area of design, she's the opposite of Ariel. Where Ariel's eyebrows are very arched, Pocahontas's are more flat. Where Ariel's nose curves up, Pocahontas's is straight and actually curves in a little bit. Where Ariel's mouth curves up, Pocahontas's goes the opposite direction. The design of Pocahontas and Ariel are very different, just like as the story is.
Everyone had an opinion and it got bad, but then something unexpected happened. Disney announced they were going to change the design and reanimate all of her scenes. They brought on racial justice group Color of Change to give notes too, and this opened the door for them to make changes to the other princesses as well, even though they got less media attention. This entire debacle with Tiana could have been avoided, but here's the thing. This isn't the only time animators had to change character designs midway through production. Obviously, we know about Sonic, but changing the design is also a natural part of character development, like on Beauty and the Beast. This is Andreas Deja, and he's animated tons of Disney villains, but Gaston from Beauty and the Beast was without a doubt the most challenging character to get right. Back in the day when he first drew him, he wanted Gaston to look like a cartoony villain, but after animating the first scene, he did not get the reaction he was hoping for.
So I did my first scene, which was during the opening song, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, our then boss, said, well, he said, the acting is fine, but he's not handsome enough. And I'm going, handsome? He's the villain! Come on, you know? So he said, no, he has to be handsome. And I thought, oh man, does he want like a soap opera star as the villain? How is that gonna work, you know? So I got a little pouty. And I did some soap opera type drawings of Gaston, which I hated. I said, is this what you want?
Things got intense, but he eventually changed the design once he understood how the character's role enhanced the story.
But then Jeffrey called me into his office about a couple of weeks later, I remember, and he said, look, the story that we're trying to tell here is don't judge the book by its cover. So that means when we meet the Beast, he is horrible looking, he's scary looking, but we find out throughout the story he has a heart of gold. So Gaston has to have the opposite qualities. He looks like a handsome young man who should or might marry Belle, but we find out he's a male chauvinist, he's completely full of himself, and becomes a murderer in the end. So that has to be clear. And I said, but if he's handsome, that's going to make it so much more difficult. And Jeffrey said, well, nobody said it was going to be easy. And that was the end of the meeting.
Disney isn't the only studio to drastically change their characters during production. DreamWorks changed Toothless from this to this for similar story reasons, but other times they change character designs for more unexpected reasons, like with Madagascar.
So I think we knew about Chris Rock when Marty was designed, but I don't know if... And Gloria went through so many different people. Gwen Stefani, and then Madonna, until it finally got to Jada Pinkett Smith. Well, originally she was J-Lo, and her design, we had a huge butt on her. We did, but you know, when she turned around, her tail was here, which means that half of her body was like a butt crack. It was unbelievable, so we had to change it. I couldn't live with it. Everybody else seemed to be fine, but I couldn't live with it.
You can't make this stuff up. Perfecting the design of a new character is already hard enough, so I can only imagine the pressure when it comes to reimagining an already existing and iconic character like Disney animator Freddie Moore had to do. Because the original Mickey Mouse was from the 1920s, and he was basically just a couple circles. And this worked great in the beginning, but as the animation art form matured, Disney animators found it to be kind of limiting. Anyway, when Disney animator Freddie Moore decided to give Mickey a makeover, there was a lot on the line. He redesigned the shape of his body, made his features more elastic, and lastly, added pupils to his eyes. So all these little changes allowed Mickey to be more expressive. And suddenly, he could look more worried, mischievous, heartbroken, and even heroic. Shorts like The Brave Little Tailor and The Sorcerer's Apprentice showcased this new design, and the audiences absolutely loved it. Because here's the important difference. The fans loved the redesign because instead of changing what they already liked about old Mickey, they enhanced it. Now Mickey could express his playful, carefree energy with even more passion than before. All because of his new design. But I really wonder what Disney fans would say online if they had Twitter back then. Well, we don't need to guess for this next section because the internet today is insanely vocal when they don't like something. Which brings us to one of the most famous character design switch-ups of all time, American Dragon Jake Long. Even before the show started, it had a really complicated history. You see, usually a pilot episode takes years to craft, but Disney Channel, in this case, had only given the producers just 1 month to put the show together. So all the stories and characters and even the designs were thought of on the fly. And things got worse because when the pilot was approved and they were officially going to make season 1, the deadlines got even more intense. So things were chaotic to say the least. Disney was not happy with the results and basically wrote the show off as a failure even before it aired. The creative team also low-key felt disappointed in their work too. The show came out and the reviews were bad. Everyone thought it was over. But then something amazing happened. The ratings came in and the show was an absolute hit. And all of a sudden, Disney wanted more episodes. With this second chance, the creative team wanted to do everything better. And one of the first things they changed were the designs. It turns out the new director for season 2, Steve Loader, wanted to take the show in a more cinematic direction. Now that they had more time to think about the story and the characters and wanted to make the visuals more cohesive. So instead of having Jake start out as a total beast from the beginning, they wanted the character to grow and develop. So they made him more scrawny to kind of represent that awkward teen phase. And over time, they'd have him get bigger and stronger. So it was changed to reinforce the story. These new designs also made it easier to animate too. And as a result, they were able to make the action scenes even better as well. As wild as these changes are, around the same time, another show also got a lot of backlash. Back in 2011, redesigning Bugs and Daffy caused a panic online. The original Looney Tunes are some of the most recognizable characters of all time. The iconic animation style of the Looney Tunes really revolutionized the industry. They pushed the boundaries of timing, exaggeration, and humor, and paid absolutely no respect to the laws of physics. And the character designs played a big role in adding to that effect. So when the redesigns came out for the Looney Tunes show, the fans were not feeling it at all. First of all, the show was completely different and a little on the bland side. Bugs and Daffy were roommates in a suburban neighborhood, so instead of explosions and chases, they were arguing about laundry and rent payments. They even had a whole episode about Daffy Duck assembling furniture for his apartment. Real compelling stuff going on the Looney Tunes show. But the worst part, for the fans, was the characters themselves. The main issue was that they looked this way too cleaned up. All the lines and edges were so simple and smooth. People were saying it made it feel really lifeless. And the fans hated it. I mean, just look at these reactions. It was hard to just find a comment I didn't have to censor. Fans aren't the only ones who notice how characters have changed over the years. Even people working in cartoons have mentioned it, like legendary voice actor Billy West.
In animation and characters, the more it looks like children's refrigerator art, the more popular it is.
Yeah.
You know, characters with no perspective artistically and no light and no shadow and not much deliberation. But I come from the old school of Disney, Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
me too.
Where they lived and died by how aesthetic and artistic those portrayals were, animated wise.
And
his take pretty much sums up some of the worst offenders over the last few years. To see what he means, look no further than shows like Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs or Taz Quest for Burger, and of course, Thundercats Roar. All of these shows lit the internet on fire when they were first revealed. The original Thundercats had this like glam rock style going for it, and the characters were very powerful, heroic, and low-key kind of beefy. So it's no wonder when Thundercats Roar came out, everyone saw the redesigns and the fans were shocked, to say the least. Now, these characters were supposed to look more kid-friendly. This tweet does a good job of summing up the issue. Just because something is for kids doesn't mean it can't have a hardcore aesthetic. But in fairness, this style does have some benefits. It makes it easier to do slapstick humor and have exaggerated, goofy expressions, if that's the vibe you're going for. Now, does that vibe fit Thundercats? That's a whole different story. Now, here's the bottom line. There's good redesigns and bad redesigns. Different artists are always going to add their own special touches to the characters for better or worse. And honestly, for the most part, I don't really mind trying new things, because every change usually has a purpose that I definitely respect. But if you're going to change a character, you better get it right. The biggest fans of movies and TV shows will buy collectibles, get tattoos, and even cosplay their favorite character. So how they look really matters. But let me know what you think. Which designs deserve the hate? And which ones do you think we're kind of overreacting? If you want to see more behind the scenes animation videos, check out this one.